Hello and welcome to the Back Nine Report. My name is Carlos Torres, and along with Fred Alvader, every week we're checking on the world of golf to bring you the latest news, insights, analysis, interviews, recaps, previews. Hey, we cover anything and everything golf. In other words, if it happened golf, we have it for you. And Fred, this is the show that everybody waits for every time that we do it because we're recapping what happened this year. And a lot of people would go, "Oh, that's what happened." Yeah, you're right. And it's a pleasure for us to bring it to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a little bit sad. Our buddy Kieran Clark cannot be with us tonight. He's got something going on tomorrow, so he had to get to bed early. And being in Scotland, for him, he's doing this at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. So he wasn't able to do it this time. But we'll have him on after the first of the year. We'll cover something. I'm sure we'll get involved. But Carlos, I'm so excited. I gotta calm down here. That the match on Saturday was so exciting with Tiger and Rory and Justin and Jordan. Oh my goodness, I just was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I can't hardly calm down from that.
I mean, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it should have made the top news of the year, I guess. But it was so recent that we had
right
to
there
leave
with
it
the
out.
LIV. It's the same kind of thing. Yeah.
Right there. I mean, it was so close, but since it just happened this week, we cannot put it in. I mean, we already did the cuts or didn't make it. Sorry, people. We'll talk about it maybe next year. If we
But then
remember.
again, maybe not.
Yeah. If we remember it, we'll talk about it. But let's talk
pretty
about.
forgettable.
Yeah, I really didn't. Oh my God. Let me just not say a word about it.
Did you watch it at all?
Yeah, after they were 3 down, I stopped watching. That was it. That was like this. I mean, it was more of this. I think they emphasized a lot on trying to get the trash talking in, and that was the best thing. I would say it wasn't the play at all. It was maybe listening to them actually explaining why they take the shots and why they did it that way. That was interesting because it takes you into the mind of the golfer and how they're doing those things, what is going through their minds, and that was really interesting. The skills, of course, they're 4 amazing players, but the play was forgettable.
But you know what? Tiger lipped out a couple putts, and if they could have just Rory had a putt or two that was close. I mean, if they could have just got these putts, it would have been a little closer. But Jordan and Justin pretty much put it on them. But yeah, well, anyhow, that's way too much talk about the match. Let's move on to something more important.
Yeah, we gave them more screen time that they needed. But anyway,
exactly.
Let's talk about the top 6 week. We're doing 6 this time because we really think these are the ones that should be talked about. And the first one that we're going to call here is the number 6, the name Bernhard Langer. I mean, it's incredible that every year, Fred, I was checking every single year that we've done this countdown, Bernhard Langer has been on it.
And that's
incredible. And he's a 65 and he's still making it. I mean, back in February, he won the Chop Classic for the 4th time. That at 64 years, 5 months, 23 days. So he broke his own record for the oldest winner of the PGA Tour Champions and won for the 16th straight season. No wonder he makes it every time here. But that win at that time left him 2 behind Hale Irwin for the career PGA Tour Champions record. Then in November, he won the TimberTech Championship for the 3rd time. He's not like he wins one thing once, no, he does it 2 or 3. And that was his first win as a 65-year-old and his 44th win on the PGA Tour Champions. So that means that he's just one behind Hale Irwin for the record of all time, which right now, Fred, I think it's just a matter of time when it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't see him stopping next year. I see him winning maybe a couple more times next year. I mean, the guy's in tremendous physical shape. He keeps himself so fit. Evidently, he watches his diet, he works out, and he's kind of a freak of nature where he has one of these bodies that, he looks like he's like 55 or something, or 50, or not, certainly not 64, 65 for sure. And so he is so consistent, and and Carlos, we go back. I mean, he had a tremendous regular career, right? Masters green jackets and winning big tournaments. He was when they started the official world golf ranking, he was the first golfer to be ranked #1 way back then. So he's had an unbelievable career, and it just continues on. I see him winning one or two times next year to actually tie and then surpass Hale Irwin, which I just, 45 victories on the Champions Tour. And some people will say, well, that's like holding the home run record in AAA baseball or something. What does it matter? Well, you know what? It matters to golfers like us, Carlos. I think it's a really big deal. Golf is one of the sports that you can have a very long career. And Bernhard Langer has taken care of himself. His body's in fabulous shape, and he continues to win. I just think it's phenomenal what he's been able to do.
Yeah, to those detractors, I would say go ahead after 50 and try to win just one. Just one. Try to win.
Well, most guys after 50 can't even get on the Champions Tour, right? I mean, it's the hardest tour to get on in the world. There's only like 1 or 2 spots every year that are even open, and you have to go through the Q school and qualify and all this stuff. I mean, it's really difficult getting on that tour in the first place. And then to stay there for 16 years, that's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Like you're saying, I think it's next year that's going to happen. So we'll see. At number 5, we have a player that we are very happy to see go back on top. And her name is Lydia Ko. I mean, she was the child prodigy, #1 in the world. We expected everything, but then things started happening with her swing and all that stuff, and things with injuries and everything happened to her. But a couple of years ago, she started climbing back, being back on, showing at the top of the leaderboards, maybe not winning as much, but in November of this year, she won finally the CME Group Terra Championship with its $2 million first place purse, completing the LPGA Tour with 3 wins this year. She also won the LPGA Player of the Year award for the 2nd time in her career. She won also the Bear Trophy for the lowest scoring average, the 2022 Leading Money winner, and rose to #1 again in the Women's World Golf Rankings. And by the way, and she's also now a player director on the LPGA board, just as an icing on the cake. Not only plays, but outside of that, it shows you what kind of leadership she's really enjoying now and exhibiting. And she's just 25 years old, Fred. What is going to happen coming up? It's great to see her back on top, but I think the sky's the limit. Lydia's back.
Well, Carlos, as you mentioned, Lydia has been one of our favorites ever since she started winning back at the age of 14. When she started winning professional events down in New Zealand and Australia, and then the Canadian Opens, and she was #1 amateur in the world. And she was when she turned pro, I think she was #4 on the Rolex rankings, right? At like the age of 17 or something like that. So and then quickly ascended to #1. And I said at the time, it's like Ben Hogan was reincarnated in Lydia Ko and just hits fairways and greens, steady, steady, steady. And then she went through this thing with David Ledbetter where she was trying to hit the ball farther, completely messed up her swing, completely messed up her game, and kind of floundered around for about 3 or 4 years there until finally she got with a different coach and things started coming back to her. And Carlos, we saw this 2 years ago, so 2020 at the Marathon Classic, where on 18 she had a chance to win that, and 18 is a par 5. It's a very birdieable par 5, and she hit too much club going for the pin, went over the green, had a poor chip, ended up making a double bogey and losing the tournament to, I think, the Minjee Lee or somebody. But that was a glimpse of her coming back. She had a very good week, and she does very well in Toledo at Highland Meadows. It's a course she likes. She's won there a couple times already. And so you could see that she was coming back. But when you do that, you've got to learn to win all over. You've got to make the right decisions. You got to play the right places. And it's so wonderful. And Carlos, that I've had a couple one-on-one interviews with Lydia, and even at the age of 17, when I first talked to her, she was like a 35-year-old lady. I mean, it's just, she's so mature, so cool and calm, so intelligent. I root for her. Carlos, I am so happy that she had a great year, and I hope we see her do well again next year.
Definitely do, and I think it's just starting to happen again for her. I just see, you can see the confidence is back, and she seems more relaxed again, just like she was when she was the world's #1 and that promising youngster and that career that she had ahead. So it's going to be interesting. Nelly Corda is back as well. I don't know what's going to happen with Jing Jim Ko, her wrist, if she's going to be back, or when is it going to happen. But definitely the LPGA has a ton of players that are going to be gunning for her right now, and I can't wait. I mean, the LPGA is an amazing tour, and with Lydia Ko on top, that's just going to be the icing on the cake. Now let's talk about our #4, and that is all 4 major championships and what happened on them. And we're going to start talking about the Masters, where Scotty Scheffler, he found the perfect complement to his then #1 ranking, a green jacket. I mean, he won the Master by 3 strokes. He did, and I still have it right here, that spectacular chip shot on #3 that gave him all the breathing room that he needed to hold off Cam Smith and Rory McIlroy, and then Rory McIlroy. McIlroy was second, his best ever finish at Augusta. Cam Smith, my God, I thought he had that, but Amen corner happened. He went up 5 strokes back in third. But the victory at that point added to a season that you can call superlatives for Scheffler. He got his first win on the PGA Tour just 2 months before at the Phoenix Open, and he arrived by then and then had won 4 times in his last 6 starts. Incredible. Everybody was doubting. He reached the #1 in the world in March 27, and now for it, he won his first major championship. He was the 5th player ever to win the Masters as #1 in the world, and definitely it has propelled Scotty Scheffler's career skyrocket.
Well, Scotty Scheffler just had one heck of a year. I mean, he started off the year strong and just continued on the whole year. The Masters was kind of like the icing on the cake for him, for sure. And, you know, we saw this kind of building, right? He had a really good year in 2021. And, you know, the Ryder Cup experience for him was big, you know, showed him that, you know, gave him that confidence. He came off that and right into this year and just started strong and just kept it going along. Carlos, just listen to this leaderboard at the Masters. Yeah, I mean, it's our favorite major, right? And it's just, we look forward to it every year. It's such a wonderful thing. I'm planning on being there again this year. I haven't gone for the last couple of years, so I'm excited about going down there this year and seeing Augusta again and spending some time down there. But Scotty Scheffler was #1 by 3 shots. Then Rory, Shane Lowry, Cam Smith, and Collin Morikawa. How's that for a top 5 leaderboard? I mean, that's really good stuff. But when Scheffler's on the top of his game, as you mentioned it, he has a really good short game. So when he misses a little bit, he can get it up and down to save those pars. But when he's hitting those irons and he's hitting greens, he's a really good putter on top of it. So the birdies come in bunches for him. And I don't see him, I see him having another good year this year. I don't think he'll burn out just yet. I mean, he seems to be taking things in stride. He seems to have a good attitude about things. So as long as injury doesn't bother him, I think he's going to have another good year this year. But he had a phenomenal year this year, that's for sure.
Oh, definitely, and we can't wait to see what's going to happen. I mean, every time he keeps the important thing with him is that there was a lot of doubt. Is it really something just that is going to be for this short amount of time, or is he going to carry on? And he has carried on, so he's the real deal. And another real deal, Justin Thomas. He won the 2022 PGA Championship, and that was the second major of his career. Of course, he won the 2017 edition of that, and it was a dramatic playoff. I mean, I was suffering because, of course, I was going for my guy, Will Zalatoris. I thought Will had it, but no, it didn't happen. Now, Thomas won with the score of 2 under there. It was 3 playoff holes with Will Zalatoris, but all happened because he finished his round a shot behind the then leader, Mito Pereira from Chile. who unbelievably hit his drive on the 18th hole into the water. I still got chills. I cannot believe it. I thought it was Mito's championship there. He hit it in the on the 18th into the water, finished the hole with a double bogey, so he was out of the playoff. He could have just
By one
bogeyed-
shot, one shot.
one shot because of double. If he would have just bogey, he would have gone into the playoff with the 3, but it didn't happen. So, JT won. He's one of the biggest names in golf. I mean, he burst into the scene a few years ago with 15 tour victories to his name, including the 2017 PGA Championship. He had not won an event since the Players Championship in 2021, but recent months before that, we were talking about some glimpses of him returning somewhere near his best. We have seen him finish T8 at the Masters, and then he arrived in Oklahoma as one of the favorites to win the title, and he did. And he played amazingly, and it showed how good JT is.
Carlos, I had told you that I'd been watching Justin Thomas very closely, and he was hitting the shot that was called for. Not necessarily making him comfortable, but he was forcing himself to, if it called for a fade, to hit a fade. If it called for a draw, hit a draw. He was building up for these majors so that when he got to the major, he could pull these shots off without even thinking about them. And I don't know, during the match, if you noticed that he had a bunker shot that he tried to hit with a little bit of a draw, so it would run out a little bit. He said he learned that from Tiger, and he plays a lot with Tiger down there in Jupiter, and Tiger has been giving him all this stuff, and Justin is working on shots. He is playing shots. He's not just playing golf. He's playing the shot. And I told you that this was going to be a really good year for him because of that. And I see him building on this for the next couple of years because he's a tremendous talent. I don't know if he'll get back to number 1 but he's going to be top 5. He's just too good. And again, another guy with a great short game. He's tremendous around the greens if he misses a green. So, and again, look at Will Zalatoris, we're pulling for him to win this for sure because he's so close on these majors. But Mito Pereira just completely blew that. The other thing I compare it to is Phil Mickelson at the U.S. Open at Winged Foot, where he tried to hit driver instead of just hitting a 5-iron down the fairway when he had the thing won. All he needed was a bogey, and he makes double and loses. And so those are just, guys just go brain dead during these moments. And, Jean Van de Velde, same kind of deal, right, at the Open Championship several years ago. But another guy that was in the top 3, tied for top 3 here, Cameron Young. We didn't have him down for storylines this year, but Cameron Young was a big story in 2022. I look for him to have a big year in 2023, Carlos.
And talking about guys that have promise, right? Matthew Fitzpatrick had been one that we have been hyping him ever since he arrived in the scene, but he had never fulfilled that potential that he had. But he started also showing glimpses of maybe this is the year, and finally he did. He won the U.S. Open for his first major golf championship title. He's 27 years old, and he won by a single stroke there, holding off Will Zalatoris and Scottie Scheffler in that final round, and he became the first Englishman to win the U.S. Open since 2013. He had previously won the 2013 U.S. Amateur right there at the Country Club, and he became the first player from outside the U.S. to win both the U.S. Open and the U.S. Amateur. So Matt Fitzpatrick finally fulfilling that promise of greatness for him. Of course, there's still a long way to go to declare him one of the great ones, but finally winning a major and holding off Zalatoris and Scheffler. So two names that we've been already talked about in the majors.
And Carlos, we've talked over the years, we've been doing this show about confidence, and you could just see Matt Fitzpatrick all week. He was confident playing that golf course. As you mentioned, he had won the U.S. Amateur there a few years before, and he was comfortable there. He liked that golf course. And you could see it in his manner, in his walk, in the way he was putting. He didn't get too excited about a bad shot, didn't get too excited about a good shot. He just kept plodding along. And for a US Open, more than pretty much any other golf tournament, that's exactly what you have to do. You're going to make bogeys. You're probably going to make a double bogey or two during the week. You have to just, okay, that's over, move on. How can I make par on the next hole? Because US Opens are all about making pars. You don't have to make that many birdies to be in there. And he just played the golf course magnificently. And for Matt Fitzpatrick, good for him. It was a great tournament for him, a big win. And I don't know where he's going to end up. I see him maybe like a Luke Donald kind of guy, because he's probably not the longest guy in the world. And, he might have a good year here too, and then just be a so-so. But Matt Fitzpatrick is a really good golfer. He could win on the DP World Tour a lot easier than he can win on the PGA Tour, because the competition is just a little bit more and the courses are just a little bit tougher. But this was a great win for him at the Country Club in Boston.
Definitely. And hey, in its 162 years of existence, the Open Championship has been won by 150 different ways by 89 different people. Okay, but surely none of the other 88 did it in more style than the latest member of golf's elite clan. That's Cam Smith. I mean, I remember he played almost perfect golf. He looked at a putt and he's like, "Don't worry about it. I got it." 28 years old Australian. He toured that old course at St. Andrews in 64 shots to reach 20 under par for the week. That was one shot better than the heartbreak that happened with Cameron Young, but even more heartbreak for Rory McIlroy, who really, it was everyone's favorite. Everybody was talking about him, about winning the Open, but again, he unraveled himself and finished third, two behind that, and no one else was even close at how much the dominance of Cam Smith and those other two were at the Open Championship.
Well, Cam Young, we just got done talking about him, right? I mean, a fantastic finish in a major championship, and everybody's going gaga over this guy. And in the President's Cup, the players all wanted to play with him, because he's playing so good. They wanted to jump on the bandwagon as well. So he's a guy to watch for sure. And I mentioned I look for him to have a really big 2023. But Cam Smith, I want to take a minute and talk about him. His year was phenomenal. So I think he's still like number 3 or number 4 or something like that on the OWGR. I mean, he's up in the top 5. And for most of the year now, for half the year, he wasn't even getting points on the LIV. He just won a tournament down in Australia to give him points to get him to jump him back up a little bit so that he can qualify for the majors and all that kind of thing. But Cam Smith has had an unbelievable year. I mean, he won the Century Tournament Champions. He won the Players, and then he won the Open Championship, and then he won again. So it's just a phenomenal year for him. Really a big breakout year for him. And I want to, before we get away from this, I want to talk just a minute about Rory. And I know I said it at the time when we talked about the Open Championship. Rory did everything the right way on Sunday. He did it the way he should have. The only thing he did wrong, the first 4 holes, he played them a little bit too conservatively and didn't make a birdie in the first 4 holes. If he could have gotten 1 birdie in those first 4 holes, I think he could have tied or maybe even beaten Cam. But Cam just played brilliantly. Cam Smith, just unbelievable golf from 11 in, something like that. I mean, it was just unreal. Rory did exactly, he hit fairways, he had greens, a couple putts wouldn't go in, but he did everything he should have done. Cam Smith just played better that day. So it would have been, and Rory had a phenomenal year as well. Imagine if he'd added an Open Championship to that, to his year. But, these are the guys that are going to be up there, and we'll talk about it. Maybe I might talk about it later, but like the official World Golf Ranking, we talked about it last week a little bit. And you've got Dustin Johnson, you got Cam Smith, who aren't getting ranking points, and we've got Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy 1 and 2. Well, really, Cam Smith and Dustin Johnson are in that conversation as well. So But yeah, we're talking about the Open Championship. Tremendous win for Cam Smith. Tremendous year.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, now that he's in the LIV, and we'll talk about that in a little while, it might take away a little bit from what really his career has become. Hopefully, it doesn't, because he is definitely one of the elite players in the world right now. That good as Cam
Oh,
Smith. And
absolutely.
hopefully, he can actually, keep showcasing himself, because golf really needs to see him playing against the best players in the world.
Carlos, before we get away from this, I was going to ask you what's the most memorable of these four majors in 2022? Was it Scotty Scheffler's win? Was it Rory getting close? Was it Cam Young being in there? Was it Cam Smith winning the Open Championship? What will you remember from the four majors of 2022?
Well, that is a very tough question, because that Cam Smith performance was out of this world. I mean, the way that he was playing, he didn't seem like he could miss a putt in that tournament. But definitely, I have to go with the PGA Championship. To me, that way that JT won, and Mito, the circumstances that happened, I can't still shake off how Mito lost that, because he lost it. He had that tournament won, and then opening the door for JT and Will Zalatoris, and they had to go 3 extra holes to decide who was going to win. It was an amazing show of skill and play, and to me, that's something that I cannot forget. I mean, all four were great. I would say, if you tell me the order, I would say it's the PGA Championship, the Open, then the Masters, and maybe the US Open afterwards. But all four were great this year.
Well, you know how much I like the Masters, and Scotty Scheffler's win was really, it was fun to watch. I really enjoyed it, but I will never ever forget. I'm going to remember forever the round that Cam Smith put together to win the Open Championship. That was the other round that I remembered like that was David Graham winning the PGA Championship over Jack Nicklaus, and I can't tell you the year. It was in the 70s. But David Graham, he played like a perfect round. He hit every green, hit every fairway, hit every green. It was almost like a perfect round of golf, and he wouldn't let Jack catch up. He didn't make any mistakes to let Jack catch him. And those two rounds, Cam Smith rounds of the Open and that David Graham round years ago, those stick out to me as really two memorable rounds that, when you're watching him and you from 15 on, when they've had such great holes, great round up till then, and you're just going, oh my goodness, this is just, it's like perfect golf. They're in the zone. They're just hitting every shot the way they want it. That was really good stuff. The Cam Smith at the Open Championship, plus it was at St. Andrews. That's just like icing on the cake.
Definitely. And talking about the Open, and Rory McIlroy was the heartbreak kid there. He was heartbroken, and he's our number 3. He's his year. Not only he played amazingly all year long, he did great in the majors, but maybe also finally accepting the role of being the face of golf. That's what really calls for this year. He did amazingly, and that in itself, it's good enough to mention him as one of the top stories. But him finally accepting the role of, hey, I'm gonna take the PGA Tour on my shoulder and I'm gonna move it forward, because we've been expecting for him actually to do it. Because Tiger Woods, we know he has been the face of golf for the past 20 years plus, but nobody moves the needle like Tiger, not even Rory yet. But and I don't even think Rory will get to that. Who knows? But because of the time that it would take, Tiger Woods was, since he started, he has been doing it. But Rory, with the thing with the LIV and trying to maintain that leadership role there, him and Tiger, but more him than Tiger, really, because he's the one that has been playing, it has been all over here, taking that mantle of, I am going to lead by example. I am going to back up everything that I'm saying. going against the LIV, asking for Greg Norman's resignation, or at least being removed from there, and all the things that he has said and done. Definitely that expanded role from Rory McIlroy is what jumps him here at number 3.
Absolutely. He had a phenomenal year. And Carlos, I go back to 2019 when Rory was number 1 in the world before, and he went from a string from the early part of the summer through the end of the year where his worst finish was like an 8th place or something like that. And he won 2 or 3 times. He had, a couple runner-ups and top 3. And so he was playing at a phenomenal level. And then when COVID hit in 2020 and shut everything down, he never seemed to come back with the same energy and with the same game he had before the break. And it's like this LIV thing has kind of lit a spark in Rory, and it's carried over from off the course of the stuff that he's doing, the time he's spending with the press, the things he's engaging in. It's carried over onto his on-course play, which usually that doesn't translate that well. When you have a lot of stuff in your mind and you're being involved with the press and you're doing all this off-course stuff, and Rory's very involved in business. He and Tiger are doing business stuff, and Rory's doing stuff, Golf Now and all this other stuff. So he's not just concentrating on his golf, but he had a tremendous year. Runner-up in 2 of the majors, and he should have won the Open Championship. We just got done talking about that, except for Cam Smith going berserk. Rory would have won that. And on top of it, he won the 18 million from the FedEx Cup. So, and got back to number 1 in the world. Rory McIlroy, he's must-watch TV. When he's on, he's not like at the same level as when Tiger's playing, everybody's got to watch, right? But if you're watching golf and Rory's there, you're keying in on Rory for sure, because he's fun to watch. And just like Tiger told Charlie the other day, he said, don't watch my swing, copy Rory's, because he's always on balance. He's never off balance. So that's pretty good praise from Tiger Woods when he's telling his own son to watch somebody else's swing. So, because Tiger's is not too bad. But Rory, tremendous year. Didn't get a major, but man, he was so close. Look for him maybe to add a couple majors next year, Carlos.
Who knows? And he's definitely in position to do it. He was really close this year. At number 2, who else? The Big Cat.
So is this the first year? This is the first year that we've been doing this that Tiger's not number 1.
That's right. And
that's what I thought.
It's incredible that Tiger is not number 1, and maybe the reason why is because he didn't play enough, right? But he makes it not only because he didn't play, not because he didn't play enough, just because he played at all. I mean, a year ago in 2021, a year and a half ago, basically, almost 2 years now, Tiger Woods had that horrific accident, and nobody ever thought that he was ever going to play again. Not even him. When he was talking on the Hero World Challenge in 2021, you would have thought, no, he's not playing again. The way that he doom and gloom was talking about it, but to finally watch him play at the Masters of all places, which is a place that he knows like the back of his hand, and surpassing anybody's expectations of making the cut. Yeah, he didn't finish, but hey, just seeing him there was incredible. And that alone would have made him here to make it the top stories. But not only he did that, he then played in Scotland and St. Andrews, the Open. Clearly not the week that he had envisioned, but he cherished that walk up the 18 that made all the news. He said it. When you see him enjoying that, it was incredible. Likely his last championship at St. Andrews. Even he said it. He might not be physically able to play again another British Open there at St. Andrews, even though it's every 5 years. But in 5 years he'll be 50, and we don't know where his physical condition will be. If that was Woods' final championship at St. Andrews, because right now it's not in the Rotas, we don't know when it's going to be. but definitely he savored that walk up the 18th fairway, and so did we. And it looked like a farewell from him. But now we saw him in the match. We are gonna see him with Charlie of the PNC this week, and Fred Tiger definitely playing. It's just history enough to be here as one of the top stories.
Carlos, we have been watching Tiger Woods. Well, I've been watching Tiger Woods since he was like 10 years old. So, but he's been a professional now for like 26 years. And the guy has had tremendous amount of surgeries, some personal issues that took him away from golf for a while. Now this wreck where he nearly lost his leg. And just as we've documented, to be able to come back and actually compete on the PGA Tour at that kind of a level, phenomenal stuff. So bring it up to date. We were supposed to see him play 3 times this month. He had to back out of the Hero World Challenge because it was a walking tournament and he just couldn't walk that much. He some plantar fasciitis and it wasn't going to work. We did now just see him playing the match. We're going to see him play this weekend with Charlie and the PMC because they can use carts. He can hobble it around using a cart. He just can't walk a full 18. And saying that, Carlos, when he decided to come back and play at the Masters, and I've told you several times how hilly that is and what a tough walk that is. I just never imagined that he would be able to walk that golf course all those days for the practice rounds and then for the tournament. I don't think that I could walk it 4 days in a row. I don't think I'm going to say I might be able to play it 2 days, but there's no way I could walk Augusta National 3 or 4 days in a row. There's no way in the world. If I played it and walked it for 18 holes, I would have to go and put my feet up or sit in a hot tub or something because it's really a tough walk, up and down, side hill. And for him to be able to do that coming off that wreck and the condition of his legs, phenomenal stuff. And I know I've mentioned this before, but watching him at the match over the weekend, again, it's reinforced. He can't use his legs now like he used to use in his swing. So his swing is much more upper body. It's more like more like the one plane swing. It's not using his legs as much. It's a lot of turning the shoulders and using upper body strength, which he's he's in tremendous shape, and he's still getting a lot of speed. I mean, they were showing the ball speed coming off was 177, 178, and that's what JT and that's what Rory was hitting it, 178 ball speed coming off the driver. So that's pretty good stuff for him to be able to do that. Even at his age now, 46 years old or 47, whatever he is getting, towards the end of this thing, but he can still compete, Carlos. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him eke out a major yet sometime in the next 2 years. That would be an unbelievable capper to his whole career story.
Definitely. He's 46. He'll be 47 on December 30. But we've been blessed enough to see him again after what happened. A lot of people, I would say most of the people expected him never to play again. But actually really coming back and playing and seeing him, hopefully he doesn't, because of what you're saying of that swing being so upper body, and we've seen him with problems before in his life, in his career with the back. Hopefully it doesn't really punishes his back that much. So because he has no legs anymore to do that. Or at least he doesn't have one leg to use as he used to do. So hopefully we can see some of him winning again. That would make it for sure next year's top story.
He made some kind of comment during the match. I forget what it was. It was really pretty funny. And the guys didn't get it right away, especially Jordan Spieth. He didn't get it. But it took him about 30 seconds. He said, "Oh, that was pretty funny." Tiger talking about playing on one leg or something like that. Tiger is a completely different person now than he was 10 or 15 years ago. Completely different. much more engaging. He enjoys being with these young guys and playing with them. And you can see they still, like JT and Jordan, you can see they still idolize him. You know, they just, you know, he was their idol growing up, and he still is, and they get to play with him, and they're as much in awe of that as anything. And they really enjoyed being able to beat he and Rory the other day in that match thing. But yeah, to see Tiger Woods still be able to do, there's only two guys that can do things the way they do it: Tom Brady and Tiger Woods, and well, Michael Jordan back in the day as well. They have that discipline. So when they're not on their course, they still do their workouts, they still maintain their diet, they still do the things that they have to do so that they're ready to play when it's time to tee it up or time to do their sport. And Tiger just has this unbelievable work ethic and stick to it to be able to rehab and get himself back to where he can compete with the best players in the world.
So now, who replaced Tiger Woods at number one in the top story of 2022? Well, the young circuit, the young rebel circuit that started in this summer and really got the Open to be very controversial at that time because of the presence of the players from the LIV tour. LIV Golf finally, something that for 2 years have been talked about, or maybe more, but for 2 years was just being more completed and more talked about, finally got the players that they wanted, and they're still getting, and some that are expected to come next year. Finally completed their first year. A lot of money was thrown around. Dustin Johnson was the top earner, and there's still some questions regarding what's going to happen with some lawsuits, but this is not over. I mean, we see Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy and Greg Norman, you know, throwing jabs at each other. Greg Norman saying, look, I don't care what, I don't even pay attention to what they say. I'm staying CEO. But controversy aside, LIV completed their first year, did what they were said that they were going to do. How about that first year for them?
Yeah, you and I both, as we've gone over the last couple of years of documenting this, we had our doubts whether they'd even get this off the ground. What was it going to be? It was going to be a lot different. 54 holes, no cut, you know, shotgun start, the four-man team segment. It was a whole different package. And to me, it still is almost like a glorified corporate outing, but they're paying a lot of money, these guys, to play in this thing. And I think, and for a lot of guys like me, I think that's kind of what turns it off, is that guaranteed money up front where they're paying these guys to come over. And maybe in the future, they won't do that. They'll get this thing rolling. We'll have the LIV, we'll have the PGA Tour, we'll have the DP World Tour and the other minor tours. And maybe they won't have to pay these big upfront fees to get these guys to come over. But when they paid this $125 million, this $100 million, or whatever they paid, 30 million to get these guys to play on the LIV, that really turns me off. But that being said, they just made a tremendous impact on golf. The players on the PGA Tour should be so happy that the LIV is around, because they all got about a 20 to 25% raise this year, with the bigger purses, bigger tournaments, more attention played on certain tournaments, especially the invitationals like the Memorial, the Arnold Palmer, and the Genesis. Those now have bigger purses. I mean, it's unbelievable, Carlos. We went from $4 and $5 and $6 million purses to $10 and $15 and $20 million purses. It's seemingly overnight on the PGA Tour. So it's the LIV is not only they're helping their host country, the Saudi Arabians, have a better public image, but they've also helped professional golfers in general make more money. And so every week, would we go there for about, well, almost probably 7 months, we talked about the LIV almost every week. And so it is, and it was in 2022. It probably will be the biggest story in 2023, the LIV. There was rumors that a couple other guys are going to switch over before the beginning of the year. We've had a couple of courses that were PGA Tour courses now switch, and they're going to be LIV courses. The only thing the LIV doesn't have yet, they don't have a TV deal, and they don't have official world golf ranking points. Once they get those two things settled, they're a real deal, Carlos. Don't see them going anywhere, but they were definitely the biggest story in 2022.
Definitely, and we'll see, because like you mentioned, those two things, the official world golf ranking points is the next thing that's right there. Probably very soon will happen. We don't know how soon, but it could be. And another a deal for the TV that will definitely make them legitimate for to play. And if that happens, then the PGA tours, any argument that they have, they don't have anything at that point. Any player would be able to go to the LIV and play and still earn money, and the money like they want. And not only that, then the points that they have to have so that they can play the majors afterwards, qualify easier for the majors instead of having to go through a qualifying or anything else like everybody else would have to. So those are the two important pieces of the puzzle. At that point, I think the LIV would definitely drop any lawsuit that they have, because it really that's really what they're seeking. And it may be a point to talk next year. Definitely that will be what we will be watching for from them. They have an expanded schedule and more things that are coming, and we'll see if those players that are rumored are going to be going there, but because that definitely will keep them on there. But it'll be definitely one of the top stories no matter what happens. Anyway, Fred, how about this 2022? And of course, we're going to have our first show of the year is going to be previewing what we expect to happen in 2023. But so far, 2022, a great bounce back year after the 2021. Of course, it's been building up after the pandemic in 2020. 2021 was good. 2022 has been amazing.
Yeah, and probably honorable mention here. I didn't put this on the list, but another big story for 2022 was that golf has remained strong. Golf grew exponentially in 2020 during the COVID shutdown because people go outside and play golf. It was an activity, the family could do it. And so people found golf again. They came back to it. 2021 stayed very strong. And 2022, numbers have started to drop off a little bit. People are kind of going away. There's, kids are back in school, and there's ball games and there's programs and all the other things that take people's time. So they might not have time to play golf all the time. But still, golf is very, very strong. Equipment companies are very, very strong. Everything's moving. Golf courses are strong. There's a lot of money going back, being invested in upgrading courses and renovation and all these kind of things. So we didn't talk about it, but probably an honorable mention is that golf continues to be strong and looks good going into 2023, Carlos.
Yeah, can't wait. And if you can't wait to see what we're going to say about 2023, you're going to have to be. It's going to be a couple of weeks that we're going to be off now, but we'll bring you, as usual, our 2023 preview, and hopefully our friend Kieran Clark, who couldn't be with us because of some previous, like you mentioned, commitment he had to have early waking up, because he starts at 2 a.m. this show when he does it with us. So for an hour, he would have been at 3 a.m. and who knows, he wouldn't have been able to be awake by then. But anyway, Kieran, we appreciate you. Hopefully we can have you for that first show. Thank you for always being part of this. Thank you for everybody for being part of this show and listening to us. And hopefully you enjoy, have a very great holiday season, and we'll watch you and we'll see you and you will see us back in 2023. Thank you.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.